Hi, I'm Paul. I'm only going to make this a short one because I've not really got a lot of time, but I'm going to make this video about thinking. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to claim that thinking is not what you think it is. I mean, we can say, yeah, it's something we've had all of our life. We should know what it is. But really, have you had a look into it? Have you ever paid attention when you're really thinking and what it's actually doing? I'm pretty sure that most of you will agree that when we're thinking, it seems as if we're talking something through, planning, working towards something, a movement of psychological time. But I don't think it's quite what it looks like. I spoke in one of my other videos very briefly about the left and the right hemisphere and the corpus callosum in between. Maybe we could talk also about the conscious and the unconscious mind, which perhaps the unconscious mind is the right hemisphere. But the corpus callosum is a nervous system what joins the two hemispheres together. Now, I might not be correct on this because I'm not really like biologist, scientist, or anything like that, but just to use this as an idea. And I mentioned in my video that if the corpus callosum is separating the two hemispheres, perhaps the thinking comes from the corpus callosum. But then I said, no, it can't actually, because if the corpus callosum was working in perfect function, the left and the right hemisphere was connected as it should be, then I don't think there would be thought. Just seeing an action. Why have thought? But it does seem that when the corpus callosum or the two hemispheres are in conflict, there seems to be thought. So perhaps thought is just a denial of truth. Perhaps it's just a distraction from truth. So we could say there's truth and reality. So reality, if I seen, let's say, a dog in the distance and I thought it was a cat, then this would be my reality. But when observed very closely, I would realize it's a dog, and that would be the truth. Now we can see this in our everyday life. I see a tree, and seeing that tree is the truth. Then I describe the tree, and then it becomes a conflict, a reality, not the truth. So then we could say, but when I'm making food, cooking a meal, I have to use thought. But have you ever looked into that? Which parts of making a meal do you actually use thought? Let's say I've made that meal 100, 200 times. And because I've done it so many times, I know the next step is to, let's say, put an egg in it. Do I use thought at that point? I don't think I do. I'm so used to it, it comes naturally. It's just seeing an action. Same as driving. I'm so used to driving, but I drive without any thought. Unless something happens, someone pulls out on me, I also press the brakes without any thought. But then thought comes in and says, what do I do now? What just happened? So then we could say that this is just a conflict towards the truth. And whilst putting the egg in the meal, I don't think I use any thought because I know, I totally fully know. There's no question. So therefore, I don't need to question, doubt, comment, or divide, or doubt myself, or anything. I just act. So therefore, there's no thought. So perhaps all that thought is an action to run away, cover up, divide, separate, run away from truth into reality. You see, if you think about it, we live in a reality, what we've been taught. Everything's made of words and thoughts, but this isn't the truth. So perhaps the reason why we think so much is because we are so much or so far away from reality, or sorry, truth, because we're in a reality, everything's described. So really what we do talk about in the spirituality, which I'm not a big fan of using that word anymore, is that we need to get rid of thought and find the truth. But finding the truth actually does get rid of thought. You see something, you know it 100%, you don't need thought. It's only when you question it, when you don't know it, when you think, which one is it, that thought comes in. So perhaps the idea of really getting rid of thought is to know the truth all the time. We don't need to go into our memories at that point just to doubt or question, because we know. Just like I say, driving a car, I know how to drive a car. I don't need to use thought. So I actually question just how much we actually do use thought. I think we jump to the conclusion that we use thought a lot. I think we jump to the conclusion that we use thought all the time. Perhaps all these times that we're actually using thought is just some conflict between truth and reality. Some people live in thought all the time and seem to think that's fine. There's no problem. This is how life is. This is what life is. But I think that's only because they believe so much in the reality and not the truth. They actually think the truth isn't there. That there's only this reality, so therefore there's less conflict. Some people seem to be just trapped in the middle, and there's huge conflict between reality and truth because we don't know what to believe, so therefore we have hectic minds, constantly questioning everything. I've not really looked into this thought business massively, to be fair. It only really popped up in my head on my other video, what I did, where I briefly talked about the corpus callosum. And then I thought I'd have a little look into it more, but maybe I might discover more yet and do another video on it, but that's all I've got to give for today. So thank you very much for listening.